everyone. So our next guest is a licensed professional counselor, and he's the founder and visionary behind Inside Fitness here in Dallas, Texas. Ladies, please help me welcome Rukudzo Sithole.
Well, thank you.
Welcome. Thank you for being here.
No, the pleasure is mine. Thank you for having me.
Yes.
Yeah.
So earlier in the show, we talked about the importance of mental health and how there's so much stigma in terms of mental health illnesses in our communities, especially where we come from, African and Caribbean communities, and just in Black communities here in America. But here you are, a Zimbabwean man who owns his own practice here in Frisco, Texas. So tell us, what was the inspiration behind opening up Inside Fitness?
Well, actually, I could be honest, this is not a profession that actually you choose. It actually chooses you. That's one of the things. So I could actually start by saying family history.
Okay.
My family, there's mental illness in my family, and it was always something that was a passion for me, like a latent passion. I did my stint in corporate America for about 20 years, but it wasn't really fitting. So I decided to explore, and I found myself right in mental health.
Okay.
So it was I think it was the desire to give people what I realized that my family needed and wasn't really available. So I said, hey, why won't we create a place where people can come and experience, just love and walk through these difficult life issues and just have that extra helping hand as they deal with different mental health issues. Yeah.
That's awesome. Very important work that you're doing. That's amazing.
You mentioned family. I had a question about, living here in the diaspora. Sometimes we are unable to go back and bury our loved ones. I wanted to know, what do you think the side effects of that over time? Like, what do you think as far as mental health and as far as our emotional health as well? Like, what do you think about?
Now, that is one of the most important things, and I think that's one of the devastating things, because I've experienced it.
Yeah.
I've buried a lot of family here, and if you were to travel every time, yearly, you would be going to bury somebody. Now, the thing with that is grief is one of the most powerful emotions we will ever get to experience and ever have to process. There is something that comes with some closure, that comes with walking with someone from the hospital bed to the gravesite and to be in the moment and to experience the emotional processing of every stage as you bury them.
Right.
Now, the thing with not being able to go through that grieving process, that aspect of grief, you don't get the closure. It's like a story that you heard, that, oh, somebody died.
Right.
You are not able to walk there. Now, usually, people end up dealing with silent and latent depression, just a dissatisfaction with life. And a lot of times we end up self-medicating, and I'm going to call out the diaspora. Sometimes we end up drinking too much and partying too much. All these are ways and things that we're trying to use to cope and to make life become a little bit better, because we're dealing with latent, unprocessed emotions and pain.
That's right.
When you say that, actually 2 years ago, my mother-in-law passed away.
And
she had lived with us for like 4 years. And my husband, we're going to Zimbabwe in December. So he's also, and she's from Zambia. So he's now going to see where his mom was buried. But I feel like he's okay, but you can just tell that there's something that he earns for. He's got a great job, great life, but there's something at the back that he yearns for. And I think to see his mom's grave, I guess will give him that closure.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly. And you're absolutely right, because seeing my dad's grave was the biggest thing that I wanted to do, because it just moved me to a place where I had no idea that I was still grieving, even though it had been 5 years. So that is something I can understand. I can relate to that totally. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Another the question now. So I grew up in Zimbabwe, and I remember seeing like people would be walking on the street, maybe half naked, or people would be walking on the street and they're in really like dirty clothes. And every time the people would say anopenga, which means like, oh, they're crazy, or they would say, oh, they're akaroiwa, like they've been witched. And now you know, coming here, I've realized, oh, there's something more deeper going on here. Can you kind of help us understand that?
Yes, and I mean, because I grew up in Zimbabwe too, because culture was actually a big impediment towards like mental health treatment.
That's right.
Because as I mentioned, my family, I had a lot of guys extremely educated, but then something would happen one day because mental illness either starts at 18, which is what we call early onset, or late onset around 28. So somebody was okay until they hit 28. And then they say, oh, something happened, this guy was bewitched. You know, but the truth is, this guy wasn't bewitched, it's mental illness. This guy was sick all the time. So then we start going into a cultural understanding to say, how can we treat this mental illness? You're gonna go to all different witch doctors, cultural doctors. Sometimes there's another extreme now, extreme religion, where we're praying and you've been anointed with olive oil to a point where we can fry Kentucky Fried Chicken. And saying God is going to be with us. Sometimes the reality is that it's just mental illness. And sometimes it's just that we're not in a place where we understood that people can be depressed. There's bipolar disorders, there's schizophrenia, there's all these different issues. And even here in the United States, you will tie, because you tied homelessness to mental illness. Majority of the people that are walking out there and in the streets that are homeless, it's actually tied to mental illness. And if they take their medication, they'll be okay. But then we get into the stigma where people don't want to take the medication.
That's right.
And so as a result, people would rather live outside and be in the open and not take medication and just get worse and worse. All right.
Ooh, okay, so
It's heavy.
Yeah, that's a lot.
so like I said, so I started doing therapy, and I'm like a competitive person, like, you know what I mean? So I'm like, okay, when am I gonna be finished? Is there like a graduation? Can I graduate top of my therapy class? I'm like, I want to be graduated with distinction.
That's hilarious. Yeah.
So is it like an ongoing process, or are you ever just done?
All right, the way I look at it because I'll be honest and say I go for therapy too, you know what I mean? And I'll first say that therapy is a journey. You go there for different things and different stages of your life. You need help with different things. Now, yes, as a practicing therapist, you know, I would like to keep people there when they're benefiting something.
Right.
So if you're experiencing a stage and you need something, let's say grief, they say that takes about 18 to 24 months. Usually when we walk somebody through a year, we know that, okay, they're getting better. So whenever somebody is able to cope with the presenting issue that brought them to therapy, they're good. And then you can come back when something else comes up, because so long as we're alive, we're gonna go through life and issues, you know, because I go see my therapist every now and then when something comes up and I have to go and talk to her about that. So, sorry, competitive one. It's a journey, but when you feel you've figured out this stage, yes, take a break and come back.
Perfect, sounds good.
Exactly.
You know what I like? Here you are, black man, Zimbabwean man, confessing that you go for therapy.
That is
Right.
powerful.
You don't understand how many guys need to hear that.
Yes.
Black, white, brown,
Very
I don't
true.
care what color. Just hearing that, that is amazing. And I hope that somebody is learning something from this.
Yes.
My brother.
No, but that's very true. And it does actually lead me to the thought of, what are your thoughts in terms of how can we help our communities in terms of like breaking down stigma? I mean, I'm a therapist, so I feel like, but like for others who are, you know, like allies in terms of the fight of mental health and whatnot, what things can we do? What are your suggestions in terms of helping break down some of that stigma and educating people and letting people know it's okay to not be okay and seek help?
Okay, that is a good thing, and that's actually the work of my life, you know, and if you were to come, you know, as I was walking through this place, it looks more like, you know, I mean, the design of our office. We're trying to bring mental illness into the 21st century. therapy has been given such of a stigma that you're crazy, there's something wrong with you, or what to expect, you're going to be condemned and shamed about whatever you're going through. So we decided to repackage therapy on what it looks like, you know, hence the name Inside Fitness, you know, fit from the inside out. And we have a contemporary office. We have a different approach to therapy, just to love and walk with people through life. That's what we do. And now people just getting educated and knowing that therapy is just for you to learn about yourself and understand how you can manage life better. Because a lot of us, and why I was so happy to come on this show, because I spend a lot of my time, you know, dealing with here in Dallas, Fort Worth, and sometimes California and all that at large. But in our community, we still have not come to that place where we need to accept therapy as part of our life. And we're dealing with a lot of things, emotional distress, which comes out as depression, anxiety, doubt, insecurity, fear, all these things. You can come and see a therapist and walk through them and just give you the tools that you need to manage daily life. Because, man, life is becoming stressful. Ooh, it is. And we can say amen to that again. And a whole lot. Because if we look at, we got more demands on our life than ever before. Right. And it's just increasing and very stressful. So we need somebody to walk with us through life. And I'll say this though, therapy has to be a match. You have to find the right therapist.
That's very true.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Because my first experience with therapy was not a match. Yeah, exactly. And I was like, nah, we're not going to be doing this. But eventually I found somebody who was a match, and I feel like I'm going home just to talk to a friend. So that's important.
Yes, that's true. Because I had a therapist once, and it was like a middle-aged white man, and I felt like I had to explain the black experience to him, the female experience to him, and then tell him what it was. And it was just taking so long. And I was just like, I can't.
That's true. I mean, even the position that I work in, there aren't very many black female counselors where I work. And a lot of times when students come in, they request a black female counselor. And I just understand the importance of representation in our field.
Yes.
So that's a very good point. There definitely has to be a match, because a lot of times students do feel like they can't express certain things that they go through as black women to another therapist.
And now that I have a black female therapist, like I don't have to explain. I'm like, you get it? She's like, I got it. I get it. Okay, that's right.
That's amazing.
The match is really important.
Yes. So Rukudzo, how can people find out more about you, more about Inside Fitness? Where can they contact you if they'd like to maybe come in and find a therapist, possibly?
Actually, there's various ways to contact, but the main, you can go to our website, www.insidefitness.us, or you can call us 972-704-1372. Find us on Instagram and Facebook, and the handle is @InsideFitness360. And you should be able to find us.
Great. Well, it was an absolute pleasure having you here. This is such an important topic, an ongoing topic. So we hope that we can collaborate more with you in the future to kind of do more of this.
Sure, definitely. Thank you for having me, and I'll be available if you guys need me anytime for any future endeavors.